multiple rescues in the Caribbean seas, prices go up again, and vaccine requirements are back for some cruisers. Ahoy, travelers! It's Amy with Cruising from the Ozarks with another Cruise News Roundup for the week of December 31st to January 6th, 2023. Be sure to check out our new 60-second Cruise News short series for your daily dose of up-to-date news. Norwegian Cruise Line notified guests sailing on the Getaway's January 20th 12-night sailings that they will lose an hour at San Juan in order to reduce speed and lower their fuel emissions as part of their plan to reach net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. Now, lowering speed does allow ships to be more fuel efficient, and an hour off of your time on shore may not seem like a lot, but the question becomes if this is just a glimpse into the future of cruising. The push towards being energy efficient, along with lines saving money by using less fuel during a cruise, may mean that we will see lines making changes to their itineraries. Are we going to start seeing more sea days and less days on shore? It's definitely a possibility, especially if an itinerary includes locations that are further away from one another, takes longer to get there, and so they decide to stick to places that are close by or add in an extra sea day. It's definitely something that we need to be keeping an eye on. More and more ships are needing to rescue Cubans as they attempt passage to the US. The number of Cubans desperate to flee communist Cuba has risen enough that Governor DeSantis has activated the state National Guard to help with the number flooding onto Florida shores. Cruise ships continue to rescue people who are attempting to flee Cuba in rickety homemade boats. Carnival Celebration made its first rescue this week as they picked up what appeared to be 5 men off a small homemade raft. Virgin's Scarlet Lady rescued 8 people over the weekend, including women and children. Holland America and Celebrity also picked up people this week. Many will remember the Clinton-era policy of wet foot, dry foot, which allowed any Cuban who reached dry land to apply for residency a year after reaching the U.S. Obama ended that policy just 1 week before the end of his second term as part of his attempt to establish diplomatic relations with Cuba. The intention then being that anyone wanting to become a U.S. citizen would need to do so through proper legal channels. Maritime law requires ships to help anyone in distress at sea. And while they can apply for asylum, the majority will be given medical treatment, processed, and then repatriated back to Cuba. I am sure that you, like me, feel really bad for these people. Most of them are Cubans. There's a few Haitians as well that will attempt to cross the open ocean. And Cubans are fleeing a communist, authoritative regime. These aren't people who are just like, I don't make enough money. I'd like to make more money. I'd like to have a bigger house and provide for my family better. No, these people are truly refugees. My heart goes out to these people. I cannot imagine it being bad enough to get into one of these boats and cross the open ocean. I believe 65 died in the attempt of trying to make it to the US from Cuba across the open ocean in 2022. And that's probably just what we know of. If you've made it this far, you should consider subscribing to the channel. It doesn't cost you a thing, and it helps other cruisers know that our channel has content worth viewing. Make sure you also click the notification bell so that you don't miss any future posts. Carnival joins other major cruise lines in raising their gratuities. Effective April 1st, gratuities will be $16 a day per guest, with suite guests paying $18. This time last year, the cost was $13.99 and $15.99 respectively. They are also raising the cost of their Wi-Fi, and it does not seem like they have upgraded the speed in any way, just saying that they will make it more widely available throughout the ships. So if there were like dead spots on ships, that won't be the case anymore. In the last couple of months, multiple lines have increased gratuities, some of them increasing gratuities for the second time this year. So I would love to know what you think about this. Now, personally, I would rather the gratuities go away completely and the cost just be added to the base fare. Now, I understand what they're doing. Lines are trying to compete with each other by throwing up the base fare. Now, not all lines. We have your luxury lines, your higher end lines who have other amenities that they're pushing out. But your lines like Carnival and Norwegian and Royal and MSC, they're competing for people who are budget cruisers like I am. And so they're throwing out these fares. They're like, oh, you can go on this 7-day Caribbean cruise for $400. Like, looks great. But we all know that that does not include gratuities. It doesn't include taxes. It's not including port fees. And the smart cruiser realizes that. And so I don't really think that they're doing what they think they're doing. It's like when you go to the store and they say something's $99. The smart shopper knows that's $100. I'm not being fooled by the 99. So personally, I would just love it if they would stop this and just add all the gratuities to the base fare, pay the crew the money they deserve, and stop nickeling and diming us. Let us decide if we want to give cash to somebody that really deserves it. Lines seem to be raising their gratuities a lot lately, and it just seems to me that at some point people are going to decide not to pay them anymore. It's still possible to have them removed from your account on most cruise lines. Even if they don't advertise it, you can go down to the desk and ask for them to be removed from your account. And people don't want to do that. They don't want to look bad. They don't want to look cheap. So most people are not going to do that. We pay the gratuities because we are told that that money is not just going to the people we see face to face, but to the people behind the scenes. And I think that's fair. They deserve it. I have not been on a behind the scenes tour of a cruise ship yet. I've not been able to get onto one. I'd really love to, but I can only imagine what some of these are going through that are working in the laundry, or they're working preparing your food and washing the plates and the dishes and all of that. These people deserve a little bit too. So I don't have a problem with that. The problem is that it's hard to know how true it is that money's actually getting to them, how much might be getting to them. We're not given any real information on how that's all done, how it's allocated, which means that many people do question whether or not 100% of gratuities paid are actually going to the crew. The higher these gratuities become, in my opinion, the more likely it'll be that people will decide to take that money and tip people face to face with cash instead. So I think the cruise lines are playing a dangerous game here. And they need to make a decision that, look, we're going to stop with this gratuity thing, and we're going to then just pay our people. Put it on the base fare. Or maybe you make the gratuity a percentage like you would do at a restaurant. You know, restaurants, 15 minimum, 20% is what most people pay, and then more for better service. So maybe you make it a percentage and you say gratuities are going to be added and the gratuities are 20%. I think that there needs to be some kind of change here. Please let me know in the comments what you think about this. I know that gratuities is a hotly debated topic, and whether or not to pay them or not, or pay face to face in cash, all of this is one of the biggest topics that's discussed when it comes to cruising. And it's something that for me, I've always just thought of the gratuities as part of the cost. I don't, just like I think of the taxes and the port fees as part of the cost. It's not a problem to me to pay gratuities. I don't have a problem with it. What I do have a problem with is not knowing for sure that 100% of it is going to the crew and how it's being divided up. I think that's an issue. And so I think it would just be better if it was gone and they just added that money to the base fare. Let me know what you think. I really would like to know. Our last story includes a return to vaccine mandates. But before we get to that, please go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. We're a new channel, and that could really help us out, and we can really use your support. Norwegian Cruise Line sent a letter out to passengers who have cruises planned for the month of January, which we do. This is how I know they sent this letter out. And it came out with information on updated health protocols. And let me just tell you right now, it was a little freaky getting this letter because you're thinking, oh crap, what now? What hoop am I going to have to jump through? Am I going to be able to cruise? And the letter said that due to travel restrictions in the US and several other countries, anyone who has visited China or Hong Kong within 10 days of their sail date will be subject to enhanced protocols, including vaccine requirements and negative PCR tests. And the same goes for anyone with a Chinese or Hong Kong passport, unless they can prove that they haven't visited those regions in the last 10 days. So this is a good reminder that we are all still subject to changes in health protocols and to not get too complacent with the lessening of previous COVID restrictions and health restrictions. So thankfully, this is not affecting us. I've not been to China or Hong Kong ever in my life, let alone in the last 10 days. But like I said, I do think it behooves us all to be aware that at any point they can make changes if they want to. Stick around and check out this next video. And don't forget to come back Tuesday for our newest in cruise tips and trivia. Meanwhile, I hope you have a blessed week.